Algebra Chapter 2, Lesson 3, and we want to look at now how we can add these rational numbers without the use of a number line. We kind of get the idea from a number line that if we're adding a positive number, we move to the right. If we're adding a negative number, we move to the left. And one of the things I want you to kind of think about there is that we're adding in both cases. Whether we're moving to the left, which would be kind of like taking something away, we're still adding, but we're adding a negative number. Or if we're adding a positive number, we move to the right. That's going to be kind of the concept that we're going to develop as we go through this. So to add numbers with the same sign, the main thing here we just want to do is that we simply add their absolute values. We add the values of the numbers. So if we add two positive numbers, we're simply adding the value of those two numbers together and the answer remains positive. If we're adding two negative numbers, we again simply add the value of those numbers and we keep the negative sign. So a positive 2 and a positive 6 would equal 8, and a negative 2 plus a negative 6 would be a negative 8. Notice that the value of 2 and the value of 6 are added and it remains positive. And then on the negative values or negative numbers, the 2 and the 6, we still add the values. 2 and 6 is 8. But then we keep the number or the sign of those numbers. So when we're adding, when all of the values are the same sign, we simply add the values and then we keep the sign. Okay, so a few examples then real quickly here. Here's a positive 3 and a positive 12. We add those together. That's going to be a positive 15. If we have a negative 7 plus a negative 4, so both of them are negative, we simply add 7 and 4, which is 11, and we keep the sign. They were both negative, so the answer remains negative. Negative 8.7 plus a negative 10.3, again, both of those are negative, so we simply add the two values, 10.3 and 8.7, which would be 19, and then we keep the sign. They're both negative, so our answer is negative. And then two positive numbers, 5.04 plus 7.1, again, because they're both the same sign, we simply add the values of those numbers and keep the sign, so we get a 12.14. Okay, so when we're adding numbers with the same sign, it's really simple. The only difference then would be, what do we do when numbers are different signs? In this case, we just simply find the difference of the absolute value, and then the sum will have the same sign as the one with the greater value. So when we have signs that are different, we simply add, or actually we find the difference, or you subtract the two values of the numbers, and then you just give the answer the sign of the larger. So here we have a positive 6 and a negative 2. So the difference between, because there are different signs, we take the difference between 2 and 6. Well, what's the difference between 2 and 6? Or 6 minus 2 is 4. And then because the 6 is larger in value than the 2, we give the answer the sign of the 6. The 6 was positive, so our answer is positive. In this example, we have 2 and negative 6, so because they have different signs, again, we ignore the signs for a moment and we figure out the difference between 2 and 6. The difference between 2 and 6 is 4 again. However, the value of 6 is larger than the value of 2, so the answer will have the same sign as this value of negative 6, so the answer is a negative 4. So when we're adding numbers with different signs, we simply find the difference between the two values, and then we give our answer the sign of the one that had the larger value. So here we have a positive 5 and a negative 9, so the difference between 5 and 9 is 4. The negative number is larger in value, so the answer is negative 4. Negative 8 and 13, again, because the signs are different, 13 minus 8, or the difference between 13 and 8 is 5. The 13 is the one with the larger value and is positive, so we keep the positive 5, or positive sign. Negative 27 and 19, again, the signs are different, so we simply find the difference, which is 12. 27 is larger in value than 19, so the answer will take the sign of the larger valued number, a negative, so this would be a negative 8. I think I said 12, it's negative 8, excuse me. 45 and negative 87, again, the signs are different, so we take the difference between those two, so that's a difference of 42. The 87 is a larger in value number, so the answer will take on the sign of that larger valued number, so that would be a negative 42. So we have two scenarios when we have, well, kind of three. If you have two positive numbers, you add them together, keep the positive sign. If you add two negative numbers, you add them together, keep the negative sign. If the signs are different, then you simply find the difference between the two values, and then the answer will take on the sign of the value that has the larger absolute value or the largest value. So when we're adding multiple signs together, then how do we do this? So for expressions that have multiple terms, we're going to apply the commutative property and the associative properties to gather those numbers with the same sign together. Because when we add numbers of the same sign, we simply add those numbers together and they keep the sign. So we're going to add all the positive numbers together and get an answer. Then we're going to add all the negative numbers and get an answer. So then we're going to end up with a positive plus a negative. So then we will take the difference between those two, and then our final answer will have the sign of the ones that have the larger value. All right? Kind of sounds complicated, but let's take a look at it. So if we wanted to add here 18 plus a negative 7 plus a negative 5 plus 11 plus a negative 2, we're going to gather the positive numbers together because it's all addition. So I have a positive 18 and a positive 11, so I gather those together. And then I take the negative numbers and I gather those together. So I have these two positive numbers, and then I have this set of three negative numbers. Now, to add positive numbers, we simply add them and keep the sign. So we're going to add 8, 10, 11 and get 29, and it's positive because both the numbers are positive. Then we can add the three negative numbers together because they're all the same sign. We simply add those together and keep the sign. So 7 plus 5 plus 2 is 14, and they're all negative, so we'll keep negative 14. Now that gives me now finally a positive and a negative. Now to add a positive and a negative, we simply take the difference between those two, which is 15, and the 29 is larger in value, so the answer takes on the sign of that number, so it'll be a positive 15. Okay, so to add those numbers together, again, just to wrap up, if you add all positive numbers, then you simply add the numbers together and keep the positive sign. If you're adding all negative numbers, you simply add them all together and keep the negative sign. If the signs are different, one's positive, one's negative, you find the difference between the two values, and then the answer takes on the sign of the one that has the larger value out of the two.